that are most problematic for us right now: China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Iran. So let me give you thoughts, a little bit of thought on each one of these. So China, you remember we indicted those Chinese hackers back in 2013, and everybody said, China's really quieted down, they're really not doing too much anymore. I would take that with a grain of salt. Actually, what happened was, prior to that time, China was kind of like the New York jewelry store robbery, right? Where you see the video of 5 or 6 people, they go into the store, they got black hoods over there, they got hammers, they smash the windows, they smash the glass, they grab as much stuff as they can. If 2 or 3 guys get caught, that's okay, because some of the other stuff they got away with, right? And so now, we had the discussions with President Obama, put some pressure on them. We wrote the executive order, we did the indictment, they were on the FBI's wanted list. Everybody goes, oh, look how quiet they've got. Quiet is not good in cyberspace, okay? And so what we saw them do was we saw them do some reorganization of their forces. They started to get a better sense of what were these people that were wearing PLA, Chinese Army uniforms during the day, what were they doing at night, right, as for hire types of activities, right? How much coordination was there between the hackers for hire and the people that worked in the government? And so what you saw was a reorganization of the Chinese cyber forces. You saw them get, I would argue, quieter. And then last March, I don't know how many of you remember hearing about the Cloud Hopper campaign. Somebody exposed the Chinese for the Cloud Hopper campaign, right? Everybody's going to the cloud, so why wouldn't the Chinese go to the cloud? So this was all about efforts to break into a number of these managed service providers, right? Because if I can get into this managed service provider that's providing managed services for 50 or 5,000 or 50,000 companies, and I can get to the keys to the kingdom there, right? That's a lot easier, right? So the Chinese are definitely still active. The other thing I would encourage you to think about is the Chinese think in long terms, right? They have 5-year plans and 10-year plans and 20-year plans and 100-year plans for where they're going. And so the Chinese have a goal of between 2010 and 2020 doubling their gross domestic product. And they see the doubling of that product, 60% of that coming from R&D and innovation, and they're going to invest 2.5% of their GDP in that innovation and R&D. And some of the areas that they're focused on are next generation communication technologies, new energy sources, new materials, biopharma, smart manufacturing, okay? How many people think that the Chinese are going to do all of that organically and are not going to try to find some intellectual property associated with that someplace else, okay? Okay, nobody thinks that. How many of you have companies or work with companies or provide services to companies that work in any of those 5 areas? I'll bet almost all of you. So do you think the Chinese are a threat? Do you think that no matter what company you're in, you need to think about what the Chinese are doing and how they're doing it? Absolutely. And no matter how small the company is, I encourage people to think about this, is that if you went back and look at the defense industry, in the late 2000s, 2007, 2008, a number of the large defense contractors got hacked, right? And what did we see? We saw them put a lot of money into it. They became very hard targets. So how do people get into the defense contractors now? Just like they just did in Australia, right? You saw that a few days ago in the media. They go into a very small company who isn't very well defended, that's connected, that has that information, and they go get it there. So if we look across all those areas, next generation community, energy, biopharma, all those sorts of things, they're not going to go after the largest companies that have the resources to protect themselves pretty well. They're going to go after those 2,000 or 3,000 vendors that are attached to them. So